All right, so templating is always going to be your friend. This is something I've been addicted to doing in the last few years. And honestly, ever since I got onto social media, that's when I kind of noticed people doing this. And I thought it was a terrific idea. It's a time saver and it saves material because you're not guessing what the pattern is going to look like. So templating, this is just 1/4 inch plywood that I ripped down on the table saw. So I'm making a bunch of strips, but you could pretty much use any type of straight material for that. Now on these tub surrounds, they do bevel up in the corners so that if any water got here, it kind of removes from the top and drains down the side of the walls. So make sure you taper the edge here to contour of the top of your surround. So we're gonna just go ahead and put a template around here. So what we're going to try to accomplish here is try to keep, there's going to be a lot of small cuts no matter what we do, but it'd be nice if we didn't have to cut the dots. Cutting these dots are going to be horrible, and I really don't have that much extra tile here. These dots are not going to be cut, which is good because I really didn't want to cut the dots right at the edge here. So if we just go straight to the top here, and then try to avoid the dots. You can even see right here, I don't have any dots. I'm not cutting the dots, I'm cutting right on the edge there. So now the one thing about the edge here, you're gonna be folding this. Yeah, there's really no winning with this. Everything's so small, you're gonna have, if you try to fold it, it's just gonna be the same thing no matter what. So let's just go ahead and mark this. So then, like all these scraps, I'll be able to use up in these top pieces. So all these are going to be left out at the top. So we'll just cut the line, give ourselves a little bit of room here, and then basically this will fold right around the corner. All right, so Thinset is a really important application for a small mosaic like this. Something that has a non-sag quality to it is really going to make it a lot easier to set. Now on a surround like this, technically since it's not going to have a lot of water penetration, you could use like a pre-mixed type of Thinset. I personally don't like using it. I'm just so used to using good Thinsets that's what I prefer to use. But there's two different types of bags two different types that I really recommend. The X5 is great for everything, and you've probably seen many of my videos, and that's all I basically use. And then there's also one step higher, which is X77. This has even a better non-sag quality to it. So if you're doing something like a glass mosaic, I highly recommend this, or any type of intricate, really small type of tiles that you really want to have good adhesion to the wall. It just has a lot more polymer in it, and it makes it very sticky and just like basically sticks and doesn't move at all. But we're gonna just go ahead and still use the X5 primarily because this is just regular porcelain tile and we're not gonna have an issue with it. I am gonna keep it on the thicker side of things so that I can make sure that it doesn't sag on me. But again, if you're doing some kind of glass mosaic, highly recommend the X77. Can't say enough about it. We're just gonna use like a half bag. I think we're 6 to 7 quarts. We're just gonna go right there in the middle of 3 1/4 quarts. And then I love this thing. This is a bucket saver. So it's just like a silicone sleeve that you put in your bucket, and then it's easy to really remove all the Thinset later on. So yeah, that's what I want. I want more like a pancake consistency. Something that's going to be a little bit sticky and hold on to that very well. A looser consistency is nice for large tile like we did on the floor, because then that makes sure that all the ridges collapse really nicely, but on this, a little bit thicker consistency will help. So for these mosaics, we're going to be using a 1/4 by 1/4 square notch trowel, because we have 3/8 inch thick tile. So the most important thing is just not having too much thinset where you're oozing out. But it's really important on this perma base or any substrate to really work in the thinset first, so that you can make sure that the thinset really well bonds to the substrate. Use the back side of the trowel and work it in. We're doing directional troweling now. This is going to be pretty fast setting as far as setting this stuff into place, since we templated everything. But if you need more time, I wouldn't spread everything all at once. You don't want this skinning over. But I would say if you can set the towel within 10 minutes, you'll be in good shape. The more even that you are with your trowel line, the easier the setting of tile will be. All right, so you're going to want to grout float to embed this. You got a template to make it easy on yourself, and then you. So we'll just get this set in place, and then we'll put spacers in where we need it once we establish what we need. I'm thinking I had a cut mark at the top, and I don't. I'm cutting all those pieces in at the top. Just to help. So a little chip brush helps out a lot. Push any thinset into that joint so you don't have a problem when you're grouting. So anywhere you got thinset pushing through.
Oh my god, this tile is so pretty.
Yeah.
It's the prettiest tile we've ever used, to be honest.
Like this, there's sealant behind it, so I need to just grind it. I'm going to use one of these blades. This helps grind it. So that just grinds it down a little bit so it doesn't stick out. That's better. So what we're going to do is just bring this tile out to wherever it fits right. I mean, my goal was to get like a 4-inch strip going along down the edge, but it could be 5 inches, it could be 6 inches. It's really not going to make much of a difference. So let me adjust this. Put this right up against our edge here, and our ceiling is still going to be right at the top. We'll fill all those pieces in at the top. Cut this bottom. I'll mark this. That's where the edge of our drywall is. I'd really like to bring this out, yeah, right along this edge here. So that brings us an inch outside of our drywall, which gives us basically 4 inches. It's kind of the way I wanted it. I wanted 4 inches straight down the center. So that'll be nice because you're not cutting any, the way this is being cut, there's nothing small being cut, just kind of all the bigger pieces. So pay attention to that. You don't, I mean, to put the Schluter Rondeck right up against like a little dot like that can be really painful to make look right. So if you could try to go for the center, and that's what's kind of nice about coming outside of the shower, you can make it what you want and make it fit. So this is what we'll cut, and we'll get started on the back. All right, I did want to mention that you don't have to go out and buy a $2,000 saw, or even rent one for that matter, in a lot of ways. One thing I want to just mention about mosaics like this, they can be really problematic using on a wet saw. Now this is like a really inexpensive tabletop wet saw that uses water obviously, but this is only like about 200 bucks. This really could do the entire job of what I'm doing here. But the one problem that I see with doing this is that the mesh ends up getting wet and then the tile falls off the back of the tile. So I really try to make sure that I use a dry saw or just use a regular grinder. You could do all of this with a grinder with a good blade. This is a Ruby blade. It's made for porcelain. You just want to make sure you get a blade that's for porcelain, and you should be able to do most of this. So a grinder, this is cordless, obviously. It's going to be a couple $100 for that, but you could get a corded one for $100 and then spend about $50 for this blade and be in good shape. But that's where these new dry saws really are, I mean, they're the best when it comes to it, because you don't have to worry about any wetting of a backing on something like this and fall apart. So this is an alternative. If you're doing normal like mosaics, this can work pretty well too. So I'm just going to set this aside because I don't want to get anything wet. So see, you can get perfectly good cuts with just a grinder, totally sufficient for what we're doing here. Sand these up a little bit so that they look good against the Rondeck. Okay, so something like this, or these little grinder bits really make it easy. Gives you a little bit more ability to take, you just have more control over it. Now I do have a little wet sponge in here that kind of keeps the blade a little bit wet. I took off that little piece there, but you're not gonna, the escutcheon plate will cover that just fine. So you just want to make sure you embed this into the Thinset wheel. And we do end up caulking right along the edge there and repainting that to match the wall. So you're going to have to do a little bit of touch-up paint with something like this. I'm going to piece the other pieces first, so we're going to just flatten this down a little bit. come back to this once we get the other side in. I'm still concerned that I'm gonna run out. So we'll go ahead and do the other side first. 35 right to the edge of there. Yep, right to the edge. Makes it a lot more complicated when you don't have a cut piece left over, but we got it. So this one, we're just gonna cut the top because we have that extra pieces here, and we're just gonna trace what we need to cut here. Seven more pieces, really.
How many pieces come in a box? 7?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, you need
Yeah.
one more box.
In some ways, this is a little bit more difficult and challenging to line up now that we can't move any of these other tiles. So it's going to be important to template some of this. Definitely don't underestimate the time that it takes to actually use a basket weave around here. That was an enormous amount of time, honestly. No, it didn't help running out of tile. And that's one thing about this pattern. It's really easy to run out because it doesn't exactly just line up with each other. There's a lot of waste with this. Just so you know, this little tub surround, I used 28 sheets of this basket weave. So it hogged up an awful lot of tile, and it was basically just the way the pattern goes together and, you know, just creating a lot of waste. So definitely order enough ahead of time because it's really painful. It sets me back a couple days on finishing this. I didn't really want to grout anything until I was ready to grout that. So, you know, it is what it is. But overall, I mean, I almost got 6 hours into this little bit of tile around here. So it can be wildly time consuming to do, especially when you do intricate work like this. So make sure that you charge enough for this. I mean, you know, you're saving money on not doing the tub surround with tile, but you know, as a contractor charging for this, you have to account for like 2 days to do this little surround. So I wouldn't bulk at $1,500, $2,000 pretty easily just for the labor of installing that, versus a tub surround. You know, I mean, you're basically talking about 3 days for a tub surround. So it is saving you money at the end of the day, but you know, it all depends on the pattern. If you went with something simple, you can get this done in a breeze. But going with the basket weave definitely took some time. So tomorrow we'll go ahead and grout and we'll get the rest of this bathroom finished.